Hi, hello, it's Leilani from the Bible in 1 Year. We are reading the book of Philippians. Now, Paul was in prison when he wrote this book. It's a book about joy, and he knew of an inner, everlasting joy, the joy of knowing Jesus. So now Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And this is exactly the topic of Philippians chapter 2. So to start with a question, I would like you to ask yourself, how does Jesus influence my life? When we look at the life of Jesus, we see how he successfully handled a lot of situations. And a lot of times I struggle personally to face my obstacles like he faced his. I use the word obstacle because an obstacle can be overcome. But even Jesus had hard times. There will always be people that challenge us. Jesus had to face challenging people, and that people can even be our fellow Christians. But how we react to these challenges and these people should always be influenced by what would Jesus do, because we are busy representing him to this world, to our families, our spouses, and our friends. We should represent him well. And sometimes life throws us on the wrong tracks, but how we get back to it is what matters. So some years back, a vacuum cleaner salesman, determined to go door to door, he left the city to tackle customers in the country. It would be more work, he thought, but he'd take his big city slogans and find out-of-the-way homes where he'd sell his vacuum cleaners. He went as deep as he could into the backwoods, and he knocked on the first door. An old lady opened the door, and he quickly launched into his sales pitch, pointing out the features of this machine, telling her everything he could about this new technology. He talked so fast and showed her so many functions, she didn't even have a chance to say a word. Suddenly, right in the middle of his sales speech, he saw an ashtray on the table. He picked it up and dumped the content right on the floor. His client was stunned and still speechless. "Ma'am," he said, with a confidence he declared, "what this machine won't pick up, I'll lick up." Now finally, able to talk, the lady said, "Well, Sonny, you better get started, because we got no electricity on this side of town." So this man was totally on the wrong track. Getting back on the right track was going to be a bit distasteful. Now in verse 3 of Philippians chapter 2, Paul says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." Putting others in front of yourself is easy when it's your children, when it is someone you love. But if you have a bit of a personality clash, that's where it gets tough. It's tough to put ourselves second when we believe our opinion is right. Now, have you noticed how complaining and arguing can quickly divide people? I mean, a simple comment can start an argument that would ruin a family picnic or hurt a marriage. Enough complaining, enough arguing can hurt Christians, their relationships, and it can even destroy churches. That's why the Bible says, eliminate all things that has to do with selfishness. Now the good news is that Paul shares wisdom with us in these situations. Instead of selfish ambition, there is humility. Instead of vain conceit, there is service to others. And it all leads to unity in the entire church. And where there is unity, God commands a blessing. Jesus came to show us the opposite of our flesh. He showed us how to act like him. He gave up everything to become nothing. The one who should have been served came to serve. We should have died for him, but he died for us. And as a result of his willingness to serve, Jesus was exalted to the highest place in all of creation. And when we as Christians choose to serve others, we will also be exalted. As Jesus promised, the first will become the last, but the last will become the first. And the greatest leaders of all time were servants. So let us imitate Christ and choose to live like him in every situation, serving and exalting others, sacrificing our flesh and building the kingdom through it. So until we read together again next week, be blessed and goodbye.